Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a Fleur deck profile. So I'm really excited this week guys, because this deck summons out one of the most powerful synchro monsters ever created in the form of Baron de Fleur. And this deck doesn't just summon this card out to your side of the field, it turbos it out to your side of the field over and over again, which is a really amazing thing for this deck to be able to do. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name searched single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month your patron along with test stands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Necro Synchron. This card is a really good tuner monster for this deck. This card has a really unique effect that this card's name becomes Fleur Synchron while on the field or in the graveyard, and you can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. You can target one other face-up monster you control and increase its level by 2 until the end of the phase of this turn, and if this card is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material for a wind monster, then you can special summon a level 1 plant monster from the deck, which we have an extremely powerful plant monster that we can summon from the deck off this effect that we'll get into in a little bit. We then play 3 copies of White Steed of the Floral Knights. This card is a very awesome card to combo with our Necro Synchron, because it has the ability that if you control a level 2 or lower monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position, which is a pretty good effect to be able to summon this card beside your Necro Synchron and be able to increase its level by 2 off the copy of your Synchron and then synchro summon into the Baron de Fleur. It has a really good effect as well that if it's in the graveyard when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish this card from the grave and then target one card you control, negate the attack, and if you do, destroy the targeted card, which is pretty good just to be able to protect yourself a little bit. We then play 3 copies of Horse of the Floral Knights. This card is a walking polymerization, because if this card is normal or special summon, you get to add a light noble knight monster from your deck to your hand, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn, and once per turn during your main phase, you can fusion summon a fusion monster from your X deck using monsters you control and other monsters in your hand as fusion materials, which is pretty good to be able to just immediately fusion summon into a card that we play in the X deck. That is a great combo piece to climb into our copy of Baron de Fleur. We then play 3 copies of the Noble Knight's Shield Bearer. Noble Knight Shield Bearer has a really neat effect that if this card is normal or special summon, you can banish a light monster from the grave to draw a card. And you can banish this card from your hand or field to add a level 6 or lower Wind Beast monster from your deck to your hand, which is pretty good to be able to search your copy of your White Steed. We then play 3 copies of the Noble Knight's Spearholder. Spearholder is a good 3 of as well, because this card is a very nice card to be able to play as a 3 of in here, because if this card is normal summon, then you can target a level 8 or lower monster that you control, and its name becomes Fleur Synchron, and also it's treated as a tuner until the end phase. And you can tribute this card to add an equip spell from your deck to your hand, which comes in a little bit handy in this deck because we do have a really good equip spell that we search off this card. We then play a single copy of Necro Fleur, which is the card that we're going to be summoning off our copy of Necro Synchron all the time, because it has the ability, if this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, then you can special summon out from your deck one Sorcerer de Fleur, which is a great card to be able to summon from the deck. We then play a single copy of Sorcerer de Fleur, which is a great card to summon off this card effect, and it has the ability that when this card is normal or special summon, you get to select a monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon that monster to your side of the field. Basically being able to be a monster reborn of an opponent's card, so you can then use it as synchro material, you can link it away, you can do whatever you need with that particular card, and it also has the ability that when you summon this card, it can't attack your opponent directly, and is destroyed during the end phase of this turn, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. We then play 2 copies of Sage de Fleur. This card is a pretty good 2 of in the deck, because it has the ability to special summon itself from your hand by targeting one monster that you control and one card on the field to special summon this card from your hand, and if you destroy both those cards. And if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, then you can target one other monster in your grave, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, add a level 1 plant monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which combos very well with both of your other 2 cards, because it's going to be able to roll them back into the deck and use them again. We then play a single copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Coldwing, because Auroradon comes in very handy in synchro decks like this to be able to go into some really good plays. Play a single copy of Deskbot heal 1 to be able to go into that copy of Auroradon, and then 3 copies of the Ash Blossom and Joy Spring just to stop the opponent from touching the deck, which is really helpful for this deck to be able to do because you're trying to summon out your copy of Baron and do Auroradon combos at the same time. So this card comes in handy just to stop your opponent from establishing an insane field. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn because it helps us extend in the deck. 1 copy of Reinforcements of the Army because it searches our Noble Knights from the deck to be able to get in some really good plays. 1 copy of Called by the Grave because Called by the Grave is going to stop our opponent from hand trapping us. 1 copy of Instant Fusion and 2 copies of Ready Fusion, basically making up 3 copies of a card that can special summon a fusion monster from the extra deck. These come in very, very handy in the deck because you're going to get special summon additional monsters to your side of the field. Sometimes being a level 6 monster if you have like a Fleur Synchron in your hand, because you're going to be able to then synchro summon into your copy of Baron de Fleur, which is super helpful for this deck to be able to do. But also using Instant Fusion to summon out cards from the extra deck, like your copy of your Sea Monster, so then you can synchro summon with that card being a tuner or link it away for your copy of your Needle Fiber. We then play 2 copies of the Equip Spell Fleur card. This card is a good 2 of in this particular deck. I really like it at 2. I really don't think you need any more than it. I did consider bumping it down to 1 in this particular build, but I find that 2 being the best number because it lets you target a level 2 or lower monster in your graveyard and special summon it but negate its effects, and also equip it with this card. And when this card is equipped by this effect, leaves the field, then you destroy the monster. And the equipped monster gains 700 attack, and if this card is sent from the spell and trap card zone to the graveyard, and then you can equip this card to 1 synchro monster that you control. So basically, when you synchro summon using your copy of your Necro Synchron, you're going to be able to equip it to whatever you synchro summon using that card, which is a pretty good effect to give it a 700 boost. We then play 3 copies of Tuning. Tuning is a good card in this deck because I like to be able to add my Necro Synchron from my deck to the hand, because it's basically like playing 6 copies of that card, which is just super helpful. But it also sends the top card of your deck to the graveyard, which usually isn't that big of a deal in this particular deck. We then play 3 copies of Heritage of the Chalice because it will search out from the deck the copies of the Noble Knight monsters that you need to be able to go into additional plays. And then we play 2 copies of the Synchro Continuous spell, and this card is really good because it lets us activate one of the following effects: that you can send a Synchro monster from your hand, or Synchron monster from your hand or face from your field to the graveyard to special summon 1 monster from your hand, or target 1 other card that you control and destroy it. If you do, special summon 1 Synchron monster with a different original name from your hand or deck. Now, I will say I did consider dropping the other copy of the Fleur equip spell for another copy of the Necro Seed. I really thought that that might be a good tech card to put in here, or the Necro Fleur. I thought that would be a really good 2 of in the deck over the second copy of this, but right now I'm just playing the 2 copies of it because I really like that Reborn effect. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Baron de Fleur. You can probably get away with 1 copy of this card, but you really do need to. You really need at least 1 of these in the extra deck. But it's a really good card in the extra deck because it has the ability that you get to target 1 card on the field and destroy it once per turn. And then once while this card is on the field, when a card effect is activated, quick effect, negate the activation if you do destroy that card. And you can only use the previous effect of this card once per turn. And it also has the ability that once per turn during the standby phase, you can target 1 level 9 or lower monster in your graveyard, return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon that monster. It's a really good card to play in this deck, and it's a really good boss monster for the deck to be able to just summon to your side of the field and be able to get a pop and a negation once while it's on the field, while also being able to bounce itself back to synchro summon it again to get the negate all over again, and then getting a level 9 or lower monster from your graveyard back to the side of the field, which is pretty good. We then play a single copy of Chevalier de Fleur. This card is a good 1-of because it has the ability that once per turn, during each of your turns, or once during each of your turns, when an opponent's monster activates a spell or trap, you can negate the activation and destroy it, which is pretty good that it just eats spells and traps. 1 copy of Harpy Slash, Cyber Harpy Slash. This is really good in the deck because it's a win synchro monster. So the Cyber Slash Harpy Lady is just a really good card to be able to synchro summon into because it has the ability that when when a spell or trap is activated, then you basically get to quick effect target a monster your opponent controls or harpy monster you control and return it to the hand, which is just a great effect to be able to bounce cards back off the field. We then play a single copy of Borreload just to give us those additional negations, which is a great card to play in the deck. One copy of the Adamancipator Risen Dragite because it negates spells and traps as well, which is pretty good in the deck as a one-up because of one of the other tech cards that we're playing. One copy of F.A. Dawn Dragster because it gets us really good plays with our copy of Auroradon. One copy of Stardust Charge Warrior because it lets us draw a card when we synchro summon in this card, and it's a level 6, so it's pretty easy to summon. One copy of Herald of the Arclight because Herald of the Arclight is an additional negation with our Auroradon combo. We play 2 copies of the Centaur Mina. Centaur Mina is a good card in the deck as a fusion card, which is the main card that we're going to be using to go into with our copies of the Floral Knight Horse, because this card has the ability that you can do once per turn during your turn when an opponent's monster activates, or when your opponent activates a trap effect, then you get to quick effect, negate the activation, and if you do, set that card back on the field. And you can only use Falling Effect this card once per turn, that during your main phase, you can special summon a level 2 or lower monster from your hand or graveyard, and if this card is sent from your graveyard, or sent to the graveyard as a synchro monster for a wind synchro monster, then you get to target a card on the field and destroy it, which is a pretty good effect just to be able to pop a card as well. For the instant fusion and ready fusion targets, we're going to be playing a single copy of the Sea Monster because it's a tuner monster, and a single copy of a really surprise awesome tech, and that's a single copy of Aqua Dragon. Aqua Dragon is a level 6 monster, so you can actually summon this card off your copy of Ready Fusion, and then use your copy of your Necro Synchron to be able to go into a copy of your Baron de Fleur, which is a really interesting card to be able to go into in this deck. One copy of Auroradon. Auroradon is really good in the deck as well because it's going to give you all those tokens to be able to synchro climb, and a single copy of your Needle Fiber because Needle Fiber is just going to let you special summon out that copy of Despot 01, climb into that copy of Auroradon, and then make your copy of Dawn Dragster and your copy of Herald of the Arclight, which is just super helpful in this deck. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play around with, and it's a really just amazing thing that they've actually printed all of the Fleur cards finally. I really love the way that the deck just summons out your copy of Baron de Fleur and synchro summons over and over and over again into that card, giving you all that different card advantage. And it's just a fun card overall to summon. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.